Hello and good morning, dear buddies. How are you all? I hope you are doing all great. So we are here with a brand new series of free live classes for class 9 and class 11. So we are going to start with class 9 first. Okay, because you people are just starting to build up the foundation of that is science splitting into biology, physics and chemistry. So I am your biology mentor Aafeeyat Ma'am, starting with your first chapter that is very important and very basic chapter which we have already studied in your 8th standard, that is the fundamental unit of life, which is all about cell. Okay. Just give me a thumbs up that I am clearly audible and visible to you so that I can go forward with the classes. Okay, I guess we are good to go, guys. Okay. So starting with your chapter, okay, first tell me how do you think we evolved, like the humans were created as it is what we see today? Okay, if I talk about Greek theory, if I talk about the religious perspective, it is said that we are created as it is. The way we are standing today, we were created as it is. But if I talk about science perspective, no, it is not like that. We have started originating life from a very teeny tiny very teeny tiny living organism, or I would say living thing. Okay, I would specifically say living thing, that was cell. Okay, getting more into it, as we have already told you about, remember in our Instagram reels we have already shared what comes the first, either it is cell or atom, what is the smallest unit exactly. There I am taking you guys. Okay, so then we have already told you, me and your chemistry mentor, that is Priyanka ma'am, we have already catered that what is the smallest unit, and there we have told you guys that the smallest unit or the life has already evolved from a very small, that is very raw inorganic form. Okay, so starting with the chapter, if I okay okay, if I start with the chapter, students, starting with the chapter, I want to tell you that it's been like ages, okay, ages ago. It was like back in time. So if I talk about back in time, the life originated from inorganic substances. Okay, so all those inorganic substances, okay, all those inorganic substances collectively formed inorganic compounds. Okay, so inorganic substances came together to form organic compounds. Then this was not enough to evolve the life. So all these inorganic compounds, yes, I'm talking about your proteins, your carbs, all those inorganic compounds. So all those inorganic compounds came together to form a small, tiny living thing. Okay, a small, tiny living thing, that was, because what I am talking about, these two is non-living, because these are chemical compounds. But right now what I am taking you forward with, living thing. Okay, so all these things collectively came together to form a living compound, and that living compound, or I would say that living thing, was evolved to call as a cell. This living thing, this we call in today's time a cell, and that's where we have to talk about. Okay, so this cell discovery was not something random discovery, okay, or I would say it was something very magical for Robert Hooke uncle. Okay, yes, there I go. Robert Hooke. I am talking about, I am taking you to the time in 1665. If I take you to that time, in the year 1665, Robert Hooke was generally working in his garden. Okay, that's where the story comes. Okay, so the story is, Robert Hooke was casually working in his garden and he saw a tree. Obviously, you will go and see, if you go and see a tree, a very beautiful tree in the garden, but it has some dead structures. You have already seen the bark like a structure, and there we have some dead like this, like wavy thing. Okay, so there it was something dead, and fallen apart. So he was curious that what is there? Let me examine this, because he was already into it, he was already into science. So he was like, let me examine, because he has that thing in him, he has that curiosity to know what's there, what's not there, everything. So that curiosity led him to understand and to know that let me check what is exactly there in that structure. So he took his very good microscope. Okay, there I am talking about microscopes also. So if I am talking everything all together, don't get confused. Okay. So all this cellular history and all this cellular examination evolved from the discovery of microscope, because that was the point where everyone got curious to know what's inside that, what's inside that, what's inside that. So that curiosity led this discovery of cell to Robert Hooke, that let me discover what is in that bark, what is in that bark of tree, how does it look like if I examine it very closely. Okay, so there comes the discovery. So from that bark of the tree, when Robert Hooke examined that bark, dead one, okay, that bark which has already fallen apart. So obviously if something is falling apart from the tree, it's already dead. If I talk about dry leaves, they are fallen apart, so they are already dead. So that bark of the tree was already dead because it has fallen apart. So Robert Hooke, in that curiosity, he went and have seen that bark of tree in the microscope. So when he was examining that bark of tree, he saw some or the other relatively structure of honeycomb. So when he examined this, he found a structure similarly as honeycomb, like this. Okay. Something like this. But this compound, I have already made a dot. I have to erase this so that will be more clear for you guys. Okay. So when he examined that thing very closely, he saw that there is a hollow honeycomb structure. Okay, so that honeycomb structure made him to see that there is something, and this whole bark is made from tiny little compartments, that small compartments which are completely hollow. There is nothing inside them. So there comes the conclusion. He said that this hollow and small tiny compartments, he called him as cellula. There comes the name cellula. Okay. So this was in hexagonal shape, similar to honeycomb structure, Okay, let's change the page so that it will be more better for you guys. Okay. So if I talk about history and discovery, everything is going hand in hand, beta. Okay, so in the year 1665, okay, let me write it down for you so that it will be more better for you. If I talk about discovery, so discovery and history, we are going hand in hand, that how this evolved, how everything happened. So first I'm talking about Robert Hooke. The first thing what I'm talking about is the scientist named Robert Hooke, who eventually discovered the cell. He was the first person to discover the cell. So Robert Hooke in the year 1665, where he observed this in the bark of a tree, that we are going to slice a cork slice. Okay, the place where he has observed is the cork. Okay, what I am saying, beta, cork is the bark of the tree which is already dead. Okay, the outer thing which you see that is of brown color, somewhere brown color, and the wavy lines you see in there, the dark brown and the light brown color, exactly I'm talking about that. That is known as cork. Okay, the dead tree, the dead bark which is already fallen from the tree, that is cork. Okay, so he has the place where he has noticed all this cell was the cork cell or the cork slice, which is bark, or I would say dead bark of tree. There he has observed. And what did he observe? He observed the honeycomb-like structure. Have you seen the honeycomb structure? Like you have seen, like there is a big home for honeybees and everything. So there you will see the honeycomb structure that is in hexagonal shape. Okay, something like this. Okay, I guess my hexagonal shape doesn't look that appealing. So what he has observed is that they were shapes like this, hexagonal shape, honeycomb structure. Okay, these were in similar to honeycomb structure, but these were empty, hollow. These were empty, hollow, small compartment or small room-like structure. What are these structures? These were small, empty, hollow, room or compartment like. Let me give this room or compartment in slash. Okay. So all this thing led to a name. That name was cellula. That name was cellula. All these structures or all this description led to a name that is cellula, where cellula is a Latin word which means small room or small compartment. Cellula is a Latin word. Okay, let me write it down. Cellula is a Latin word which means small room or compartment. Okay. So Robert Hooke here made a conclusion that these cells are the small, tiny room or compartment like structure, but they are dead. How they are dead, beta? The one thing which he has observed was on the basis of movement. These cells were not showing any kind of movement. So he made a conclusion that these cells are dead cells. Because if any of the living organism, let me consider myself, if I am living, I'll be having some kind of movement in my body. If I am not moving at all, if I am not doing any kind of movement, not even breathing, not even digestion, or not even any kind of even processes also, so that means I am completely dead, because my body is not moving, my functions are not happening, nothing is moving in my body. That means I'll be considered as a dead. Moving doesn't mean, okay, plant don't move from one place to other, okay, don't consider that. What I am saying is moving means any kind of movement. These cells were not moving at all. These cells were not showing any kind of locomotion, any kind of movement. So Robert Hooke made the conclusion that these cells or these compartments are dead. So whatever we call cell will be dead. So cell is basically, or this word cellula was basically used for something which is already dead. And why he made this conclusion? Why he made this conclusion? Because these were not moving. So at the end, the conclusion what Robert Hooke made was that this cellula, okay, I am writing cellula only, that these cellula are small compartment like structure, and these are dead. And these are dead only because they were showing no movement. So this is the conclusion Robert Hooke made. In the year 1665, Robert Hooke discovered cell. And where did he discover this place was? Cork slice. Cork slice means the dead bark of the tree which is already outside, which you see in dark brown and light brown color. Okay, there he discovered. And how did he discover? He went into his garden somewhere the other way. Okay, he was working in his garden, and there he saw that this bark has already fallen. That made him into the curiosity, and that curiosity led to the discovery of cell. When he observed, it looked like a honeycomb structure. Okay, what we see, honeycomb structure, the hexagonal shapes. Okay, and then he made that this thing which is appealing to me is a hexagonal shape, small, okay, closed structure. So he made like closed is room or compartment like structure. Then he made a conclusion that these are empty, hollow, small compartment like structure, and these are not moving at all. And he gave a name which was from Latin word, that is cellula, which means small room or small compartment. Okay, moving forward, how did we discover, then how did we identify that these cells are not dead, these cells are living? Then comes in picture another scientist, and that scientist's name is Anton von Leeuwenhoek, or in short form we say it Leeuwenhoek, or we say A.V. Leeuwenhoek. Okay, if I talk about Leeuwenhoek, students, Leeuwenhoek is also the father of microbiology, because he was the first one to discover the tiny little structure that is cell. So he is also the father of microbiology. But if I talk about the second scientist who came in the picture was Leeuwenhoek. Okay, Anton von Leeuwenhoek, and he came in the picture in the year 1674. Okay, let me just check the year in the back. Okay, done. Okay, so Anton von Leeuwenhoek came in the picture in the year 1674. In the year 1674, what he came up with the idea, he was working near the pond water. So again the curiosity. So again the curiosity came up, and that curiosity led him to see what's inside the pond water. So that curiosity made him that let me examine what is inside the pond water. Let me see how it looks like, how it is, everything. He went like, let me see. So when he went and when he examined that pond water, what he saw was that there is something tiny compartment like structure which is moving. Okay, am I saying this again? He saw a tiny small structures, the closed structures, which is already moving. So he was like, okay, there was a scientist in the year 1665, and he told that there is something very closed compartment like structure, but that is not moving. And he conveyed that small compartment like structure is known as cellula. Okay. But then Leeuwenhoek came in the picture and he was like, no, these compartments are moving. So if I talk about the place where he examined was pond water. Okay, and what did he observe? He observed that there are small tiny compartment like structure in the pond water which is moving. The conclusion was these are small compartment. Okay, and these small compartments were moving. This was the picture. And this moving led that these small compartment like structure is not dead. This small compartment like structure is not dead. So if it's not dead, if it's living, if it's moving, then it's living, because this moving showed that this is living. And if this is living, then we cannot give the same name to this. Okay. If it's living, then I cannot use the same word. I cannot use the cellula for giving the name to this compartments also. So what Leeuwenhoek did was, Leeuwenhoek gave another name to these compartments. What Leeuwenhoek did was animalcule. What Leeuwenhoek gave the name was, and the name given by Leeuwenhoek was animalcule. Okay. Okay, if I talk about here, can you relate this name to somewhere or to the animals? Okay, because animals are the one who are moving more often than plants. If I talk about plants, the movement of plants is just like that. If the direction of wind is from this side to this side, then I'll be like this. If the direction of wind is from this side to this side, then I'll be like this. Okay, so it depends upon the direction of wind. They are not moving on themselves, on their own selves. Okay, but if I talk about animals, students, animals are moving on their own selves, so they don't need any external force or external. Yes, we need mama's flying chappals and all to move her. But if I talk about other things, no, we don't need any external things. If I want to move from this place to this place, that is on my own. I can do it by myself. I don't need any external force or external agent to tell me that I am moving. Okay, so there comes, he was like, if something is moving, let me relate it to the animals, because already that animal plant concept was already there. So he gave the name animalcule. So if I break this name, this name was built from the two words, that is animal and cule. Animal is already, we know what is the moving thing. And then if I talk about cule means like organism. Cule means like organism. Like organism. Okay? So if I talk about the whole of this name, that means animal like small organism. Animal like small organisms, those were known as animalcules. Why he gave the name? Because animals are already into moving, and he considered that if animals can move on their own, if the animals are independent of movement, these cells are also independent of their movement. That's why let me give the small compartments or small room a name, that is animalcule, that is animal-like organisms. Okay, so now we have understood that these cells are not dead. These cells are living. That's how history is leading us to. Let me go step by step. First, what was discovered by Robert Hooke? Cells are dead. Then Leeuwenhoek came in the picture and he told us that these cells are not dead. These cells are living organisms. So now we are moving forward to what comes the next. Okay, so if I talk about history, discovery, everything came up with the discovery and advancement of microscopes, or if I talk about the technology. Okay, just consider, students, I'll give you one magnifying glass. What all you can see with the magnifying glass, you will see it. But then comes the curiosity. Curiosity hits you hard. Like if I can see with this magnifying glass this into like 2x or 3x, then let me use a better quality of magnifying glass. Let me use 2 magnifying glass to like zoom more into it, and let me see what's in there. Okay, so there comes the curiosity, that every time when we see something, we want to get more of it. So that's how the discovery of microscopes led. So microscopes are basically better designed to see what's in there into 10x or 50x or 100x or even into one. If I have like one small cell, then I can see into like 1500x also. That gives me the opportunity by electron microscope. You must have heard about this name. So the microscopes what we are using in our daily lives or in our schools, which you have already seen, those are light microscopes or compound microscopes, which are normally used. You have seen that there will be one handle. Okay, there'll be one handle, then there'll be stage, and then there'll be 2 adjustments, one coarse adjustment, one fine adjustment, then there'll be eyepiece, ocular, and everything will be there. And that's where you adjust and see the cell into a broader vision and everything. That gives you kick. Okay, I understand, because I too went through the same stage where I am just watching the microscope, and that is giving me more kick, that now I like science and I want to study more into it. That's where we come. Microscopes has created the curiosity even in the scientists. If that microscope is creating the curiosity in us, then why can't we see that the microscopes have created the curiosity into scientists also? That's where the discovery, like one after the other, have lined up. So once you have seen the cell, once you have already seen that this is how cell looks like, then comes the another discovery. The first discovery after this cell was for nucleus, because after the cell, the only line which I can see is the nucleus lining, because nucleus also has a double lining. Okay, that we will study later in the chapter. So after the discovery of cell, what the discovery happened was for the nucleus. Nucleus discovered by Robert Brown. Okay, let me just write it down the names of the scientists, but I'll provide you the list of after the class on the Telegram channel. Please go there and have a look what does like which scientist and the linings of it, like the eventual process or the hierarchical manner, the hierarchy of that, what comes first and then what. So that will be better for you. Okay, but for now let me write it down for you. The third scientist which came in the picture was Robert Brown. Okay, what he discovered was, like, after the cell wall or after the lining of the cell, the only thing which was visible was another lining or another center lining inside the cell, and he named it as carrion. That we'll study later, but right now it is known as nucleus. When I'll teach you everything about nucleus, I'll tell you more in detail about this thing. Okay, so for now, just understand that after the discovery of cell, the thing which was discovered later on is by Robert Brown, that was nucleus. Okay, then after the nucleus there comes the cell theory, which I am going to talk about later, but for now let me write the name for you, then we'll discuss the definition and then we'll head up to the cell theory. Okay, then comes in picture cell theory, which was given by Claydon and Swan. Okay, these names are pronounced in multiple ways by different teachers and even by you. So whatever pronunciation you feel that is right for you, to remember the spellings, because there can be spelling mistake. Obviously, when we have to write the subjective paper, there comes the spelling. So whatever pronunciation is suitable for you to learn the spelling, please go with that. Okay, I am not recommending any pronunciation to you. Okay, either you can pronounce it Shieldon or Claydon, or you can go for Swan or Schwan. That is completely on you. Okay, I am not getting into pronunciations. I am not English teacher. Okay, but what I am suggesting is, students, the pronunciation which helps you to understand better about the spelling, that you don't have any spelling error, go for that pronunciation. Okay, that helps you better. This is the trick which I have followed, that the pronunciation which helps me to write the correct spellings. Now I'll go for that. Smart tricks. Okay, so another scientist which came in the picture was Shieldon and Swan in the year 1838 and 39 with cell theory. That I'll discuss with you later in this class only. Then comes the scientist Purkinje. Purkinje discovered protoplasm. Okay. Everything which I have already written here, I am going to discuss later in the lecture. Okay. Let's quickly move to the definition and what does this cell means, everything related to cell. Okay. Now let me discuss about the main thing of the chapter, that is cell. We have discovered how this cell varied, everything what happened. So if I talk about the houses you see or the buildings you see everywhere in your surrounding, are they built like in a day or like just a flip of fingers or like khul ja sem sem or like something like abracadabra or Harry Potter spell, something like that? No. Everything came up eventually and gradually. How? If I tell you I have to build a home, if I tell you I have to build a big home, okay, I guess home is not looking that good, but still we'll manage. If I tell you I have to build a big home, how will that home arrive? Like this? No, it won't arrive like this. I need specific foundation for this. So the first unit, or to lay a foundation for a home, we have already, being an Indian, I have always seen that people doing all kind of religious virtues and everything, the puja, proper puja of that brick cell and everything, then they'll be keeping it. So we call it like bhumi puja and everything. Okay. So I have seen people doing that. Why they are doing? Because the foundation is laid by that. So first I have to lay a foundation. That foundation is laid by one brick. That foundation is laid by one brick. So if I say this brick is the foundation, then of course if I form a full individual, full human, full plant, full animal, everything, then there should be one foundation, and that foundation, students, is known as cell. So if I talk about brick and if I talk about cell, they have lot more things in common, like this brick and this cell. Okay, what they have common? They are the foundation. They are the foundation. Okay, am I writing? They are the foundation. Then they are the smallest. Smallest means obviously brick is not that tiny, but if I talk about whole building and brick, obviously brick is the smallest. Okay, so these both are the smallest. These are the building blocks. These are the building. Okay, somewhere or the other I have made an error in the spelling. Okay, let's write it down again. So what they are is building blocks. They are building blocks, they are smallest, okay, they are the foundation, and if I talk about, they are functional. If brick is not there, house won't be constructed ever. Okay, so same, if a single cell is not there, you cannot have a whole organism running and going. So they are foundation and they are functional unit. Okay, so these things are common with respect to brick and cell. Okay, same things. If I want to construct a definition using all this, what I can construct? Like a cell is the building block, the smallest fundamental unit of life, because brick is the fundamental unit of a home. I am talking about home. But if I talk about cell, this cell is the building block or the fundamental unit of living organism, either it be human, either it be animal, or either it be plant. Okay, I am using line diagrams to make it more little easy. That goes for me little easy. Okay, that's right. So if I talk about brick is, I am talking of with respect to home. If I talk about cell, I am talking with respect to all the living organisms. I am talking about all the living organisms. Okay, so a cell is basically a structural, functional, fundamental and smallest unit of life. Let me write it down for you. Let's use different color. Okay. Cell is the functional, fundamental and smallest unit of life. Smallest unit of life. There comes the definition. Okay, if I talk about what all this foundation I am leading to, so basically what I am talking, students, a cell is basically a smallest unit. So if I segregate and if I aggregate, like if I get all the cells together and if I form a group of cells, there comes the tissue. That's where I am taking this forward. So if I, okay, this is a cell and this is a group of cell. This is a cell and this is a group of cell. So if I take one cell and form a group, it will lead to a group of cell, and that group of cells specifically known as tissue. And that group of cell is known as tissue. So let me take it forward. If I take the tissue and form a group of tissue, then let me form a group of tissue, and that group of tissue will form organ. Organ like your heart, obviously your heart, then your heart, then you have organs like kidney, then you have organs like different, like your brain and everything, that is considered in everything in organs only. Okay, eyes, nose, everything is sense organs now. So everything included in that is organ. So a cell, like a group of cells form tissue and a group of tissue forms organ. Then after organs, if I take all the organs into the consideration, then it will form a organ system. Organ system, when I'm talking about heart, you must know about circulatory system and the transportation system. So all the organs, when they come together, they form an organ system. And then the organ system, when all the organ system comes together, they form an organism. If I talk about humans, animals, plants, any kind of organisms. Okay, here I am talking about humans. I am talking about animals. I am talking about plants. Okay, I am talking about all kinds of organisms. So a cell is basically a foundation. A cell is basically a smallest unit where I have to travel all the way from this single cell to a whole organism. So for forming a whole organism, the basic or the starting unit is cell. Okay, now let's move forward. Till now I know what is cell. Till now I know from where cell has come. Cell has come from inorganic substances. Then those inorganic substances made into group, then formed organic, then goes to the cell. Then cell, after all those things, if I take forward that hierarchy only, that inorganic substances, okay, inorganic substances forming organic substances, okay, then those organic substances forming cell. And then cell forming tissue, tissue forming organ, organ forming organ system, then organism. Human, plants, animals, anything. Okay. So I know how cell was discovered. I know the scientists who have laid forward the discovery of cell. Now, what my question, so far I couldn't understand how the cell is coming. Like, if I have one cell, how to form the other cell? If I have the other cell, how will I continue? How will I continue the process? Now, that question is still there. Like, from where and how and everything. That question is still there. So, that question was taken forward by two scientists. Yes, I'm talking about that, the same pronunciation which I have already talked to you. That's Sheldon and Swan, or Cleiden or Swan. Okay, so there were two scientists who have taken forward that they want to know more about it. How this cell came and everything, and the picture and everything. So they gave us a theory which was cell theory. Basically, what they have given in that cell theory was, they told us how this cell is formed and how organism is formed, how the cells are forming and everything. They give us a picture about, like, a general idea that let me discuss how the cells are formed. Okay, so there were two scientists. Let's start with the black only. So there were two scientists who gave us cell theory in the year 1838 and 39. Okay, we have to remember the year specifically for those scientists, okay, because there were two scientists and both of them gave the thing in different years. Okay, so please note that we have two scientists and they gave us the theory in different years. So we have to understand that the scientists and their names and the year. Okay, please note this. So we have two scientists here. One is Cleiden or Sheldon in your language or my language, whatever. Then we have Swan. Okay, so these two scientists were of different years. If I talk about Sheldon, he was 1838, and if I talk about Swan, he was 1839. Okay, these both biologists. Okay, Later on, we'll differentiate one into zoologist and one into botanist. Okay. Later on, in the higher classes, when you go to the 11th standard, then you will discover that the one is botanist and the other is zoologist. Okay. Come to 11th standard, we'll study together. Okay. So I was talking about these two scientists. These two scientists are biologists and they have discovered the cell theory. What they have said is every living organism is formed of tiny, teeny those cells and their products. If I take a cell and their products, let me explain you with the help of diagram. So what they have said is one cell is coming together to form a product of cell. Like this, what I have already explained in the last slide. So all these cells are coming together to form a product, and this product is forming a living organism. This has what been conveyed by them. Okay, let's take water break. Okay. So what I was saying is, we were talking about these two scientists, this Skleden and Swan. This Skleden and Swan came to a conclusion, being botanist and being zoologist. One gave for the plants, another gave for animals. Okay, let me give you one small hint. It's okay. This thing will work. Okay. So one was zoologist, another was botanist. Okay, this Skleden was a botanist. He worked with plants. And this Swan, he was zoologist. He worked with animals. Okay. Don't get into it, okay? So what I was saying, both these biologists, they came into a conclusion where they have included both plants and animals. So they came to a conclusion, that was one conclusion, that these organisms or these plants and animals are formed from cell and their products. So they gave us the first point of our cell theory, which was all plants and animals are formed from cell and their product. So this was the pointer which was given by Skleden and Swan. Okay, moving forward, till now I have no idea from where these cells are coming from. So in this picture, in this cell theory, one more scientist came forward. The scientist's name was Rudolf Virchow. Rudolf Virchow came with a concept known as omnicellular e-cellular. Okay, first let me write down his name and we'll use some different color to specify him. So in picture, the other scientist came was Rudolf Virchow in the year 1855. And he gave us the concept, or he gave us the term, that is omnicellular e-cellular. Omnicellular e-cellular. Okay, now what does this mean? Omnicellular e-cellular means all the cells are arising from pre-existing cells. All new cells arise from pre-existing cells. Like if I am existing as a human, okay, let me explain you in this way. If I am existing as a human, I would have arrived from a human itself. I won't be coming from a dog or cat or somewhere like that, okay? So if I am existing as a human, I came from a human. That means if a cell is coming, no matter it's a plant cell, then plant cell is coming from other plant cell. If I'm talking about animal cell is coming from other animal cell, the ancestors of it. So what they have said in general or in common, that these cells, all the new cells arise from pre-existing cells. Okay. So the pointer which was given by him was, we'll conclude this in English, all new cells arise from pre-existing cells. Okay, so there goes the cell theory, which includes 2 pointers. The one was given by Sladen and Swan, other was modified by Rudolf Virchow. So never ever miss into it. Cell theory was given by Sladen and Swan. It was modified by Rudolf Virchow. Cell theory was not given by Rudolf Virchow. It was always modified. Please remember this. Don't ever get confused between the names, because this is very confusing and it always confuses the students. Okay, that cell theory was discovered by Sladen and Swan, and it was modified by Rudolf Virchow. Sladen and Swan, they were two scientists who one was botanist and other was zoologist. One talked about the plants and other talked about animals. Okay, here we have studied that also. Okay, Sladen was botanist and Swan was zoologist. Okay, don't remember this, but remember that they both were biologists. It's okay if you cannot remember that, but then remember the year that they gave the cell theory, in the year 1838 and 1839. What they have said is all the plants and all the animals, including both the organisms. So if I talk about plants and animals, all the organisms are formed from cell and their products. Obviously the products we have already studied. One cell, then tissue, then organ system, and then organism. So all organisms are formed from cell and their products. And the second pointer, which was modified by Rudolf Virchow in the year 1855, what he modified was omnicellular, e-cellular. Please remember the term. It's very interesting to learn that. Omnicellular, e-cellular, that all new cells arise from pre-existing cells. Any new cell, either it plants or it be animals. Plants coming from plants, animal coming from animals. Okay, so here we have completed cell theory. So let me revise you back. Let me give you a whole revision back to the chapter. Okay, what all we have studied today, and the rest of the chapter will continue tomorrow. Okay, what all we have studied, students? The discovery was done by Robert Hooke in the year 1665. Dead cell, dead in the slice of cork cell, where he named it cellula, that means small room, small compartment, declared dead. Okay, then comes in picture Anton von Leeuwenhoek in the year 1674. 1674, what did he say? He said the cells are living, and he named animalcule, animal-like organisms. Then comes in picture the other scientist Robert Brown for nucleus. Then comes in picture this cell theory scientist Sladen and Swan, then Perkins, Rudolf Virchow, everything. Okay, one or the other. Then we have discussed the definition of cell, that the definition of cell says cells are the building block or the foundational or the fundamental unit or the smallest unit of life. Okay, it is forming all the living organisms. Then we have studied the definition of cell. Then after definition of cell, what we have studied is cell theory, that the cell theory was given by two scientists, Sladen or Swan, in the year 1838 and 39. Sladen in the year 38 and Swan in the year 39. Okay, then what did we discover? What did they said? They said that all living organisms are formed from cell and their products. Okay, then the next pointer, it was modified by Rudolf Virchow in the year 1855. And 1855, what did he give the statement? Omnicellular, e-cellular. And the statement means all new cells arise from pre-existing cells. I hope that you understood and you grasped everything into your brain, that just one small revision and you're there. So we will be dealing this whole chapter amongst us, that the moment I teach you, that everything should be there in your brain only. So complete the chapter with me with small revision. You don't have to sit and study everything. That is my part. I'll deal it. Okay. But what your part is, please at least study NCERT. So once you read inside the book, now you will understand the language and how to write this up. How to write this down. Okay, so it always helps you with the subjective answers. Go through it. Okay, and NCERT is always the best to study. Okay, so I'll see you in the next classes with the rest of the chapters and your upcoming class with Priyanka ma'am for chemistry. Please look forward for it. And I hope you'll be attending in a bit, so that we'll be seeing you in a bit with another class of chemistry and starting our first lecture, matter in our surroundings. I hope you like the lecture and follow for more such lectures and such contents. We'll be going live with the whole term 1 syllabus of 9th class, and we'll be coming with 11th class also in our upcoming classes. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you had a good class and a good day. Bye bye, students.